Yes.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Abstain? So they pass, which is great. Good job, Alice.
Yeah. I was
Additions to the agenda. Is there anything on or not on the agenda that you would like to add? Anyone? Okay, timeline. I assume that everyone received the timeline that I sent out last time. The new library one that we discussed.
Yep.
Okay, I see Mary's nodding, so that's good news. I can share my screen. Hold on.
I was just going to say to do that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. And here we go. Let's say, hold on 2 seconds.
Oh, there's Frank.
Oh, good. Hi, Frank. Okay, so this was the timeline that I had sent out. This was the one that I thought we could discuss. If there were any questions, I'm sure you guys have had a chance to actually review it at this point. Did anyone have any questions or have any further discussion on it? There was a very hearty discussion last time, so I figured it would be good to just kind of revisit. Unfortunately, sorry?
Were there any changes since last time?
No.
Oh, okay.
Have we received center school location yet?
Well, I was gonna say that we haven't gotten it from the Board of Selectmen yet, no.
Okay.
And actually, I had spoken with Steve Dunn at one point, and he had mentioned me discussing it with the Board of Selectmen. Do you know if he brought it up at that coffee hour, Betsy? Do you happen to know that?
No,
No.
no, I don't. But even if, well, those are all listed as meetings because legally they have to be. But I don't think they certainly would not have made a decision there.
Okay. So any other points of discussion regarding this timeline? Anything anyone else wants to
The only thing I
discuss?
would say is on the 2028 date. I mean, I know all of this is, you know, to use a Rick Zini term, it's all gooey, but I'm just wondering if we want to just put sort of in parentheses, like you've got, you know, conceptual plan there under next to new library complete. If we want to say that that date is really going to be determined once we get to 2022 and the town knows the final cost of the school project and redoes the capital plan.
Yeah, so what I did was I put in the final cost of the school project is determined in 2022. And that tells us that the town is going to look at the 10-year capital plan. So if there is a shift there, I'm sure that we can shift it. This is a timeline that we're working with now. This is the information that we have right now. In 2022, in the summer of 2022, Steve Dunn has always said that the numbers for the school will be finalized. Therefore, you know, they'll relook at the 10-year capital plan.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is under that new library complete, maybe in parentheses, something like, you know, potentially could be, you know, or could be adjusted once that third step is known.
Well, actually, the timeline is already off because we're in 2021 and we already don't have so this is really, the whole thing is adjustable. I mean, we just have to understand it's really years rather than specific dates of about how long the whole process will take. So, I mean, I wouldn't worry about 2028 at the moment because you know.
That's because you're not working in that building, Alice. That's why. You're not working.
Yeah, you don't have to put a blanket on your lap starting at 2:30 in the afternoon when there's no heat.
No, what I mean is the timeline is already off.
Yeah.
You know, so
So I guess what something to think about then is that perhaps just putting a line along the bottom that basically says that all of these dates are adjustable. Does that help?
yeah,
I mean, maybe that helps the audience of the library staff. Debbie, is that something that you think would help the library staff?
Yeah, I don't know if adjustable is the word, but I would say, these dates
flexible.
are tentative and fluid, or
Tentative.
yeah, tentative.
Yeah, and the understanding, I hope, is that these are just dates that we know right now. There's certainly, we all have hope that it can happen sooner, but certainly, it's always good to be looking at a timeline with what we know now.
And remind me, the 2025 referendum date is because that's when Steve wants it? I mean, it couldn't be 2024 or.
So the 2025 date is just based on the 10-year capital plan, the library being bonded in 2028, which is the complete date for the library.
Okay.
Christina, on your estimated 10-year capital expenses one, you have 24, 25 potential referendums. So, to Debbie's point, I think it's covered in this longer sheet.
It just seems like a big gap from when we get final costs on the school in 2022, and then 2.5 or 3 year wait to have a referendum, and then it's another 2 or 3 years for planning and construction.
So Betsy, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
That's all right. I was going to say it's not much different. I mean, look at what the schools, from the time of the referendum, what is it before there's a completed school? Are we talking 2 years, 3 years?
At least 3 years.
So it just takes forever to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the time from referendum till when the building's complete. I'm saying from now till referendum, or from the time they have the final school costs till referendum, seems to be a big gap. That I just wish we could move it up sooner.
Don't we all?
I know. And that's
And truthfully, there's a possibility that it could move up sooner, but there's no way for us to know that at this time.
Right.
So once it gets to 2022, that's why it's really important for us to try and fight for this 30,000 to be in the budget this year, so that we can get the options that are sort of known to us. Because once that 2022 time period comes where the school is finished and they know the costs, things could move rapidly in our favor if things are in place, right? Because we know that the police station's ready to go. So if we have our sort of ducks in a row and are ready and can, if it's possible for the capital plan to move financing of a library building up a few years, that's going to be our moment. It's going to be at the end of next year or in the fall of next year. So 18 months from now, that'll be our moment.
I wonder if it would help or make any difference on that timeline to show the years as fiscal years and not calendar years. You know, show July 2021 to June 2022. Because, you know, if you don't fit things, to Yvonne's point, if you don't fit it into the budget cycle by a certain point, then you've lost that whole year. Or is that just complicating it?
No, I would think, I mean, it's possible. I will tell you, to backtrack to Center School, at the Coffee with a Community, which was a special meeting where they promised to talk about the library. They talked about the pocket park sculpture instead. Sorry.
Who is this timeline for specific? Like, who's our audience for the timeline? I mean, we know that it's all, the whole thing is flexible, and we can't really get started until the town says go, but who are we writing this for?
I put it together as a dates we know now.
Right.
And that's it's not set in stone.
Right.
You know, if anyone wanted this to pass 2.5 years ago, I can tell you this much. I really would have loved for that to happen. And if it can happen sooner, I will, you know, do anything I can to help make that happen. I think it's also important, though, for people to have realistic expectations of dates at this point. And I think it's also very important that we are all on the same page. That what we're looking at, you know, that 2028 date isn't because that's, you know, what we really want to happen. It's because that's what we know from the town right now. And one of the things that Steve Dunn mentioned when we talked to him was that we should all be talking about the same thing, that people shouldn't be off saying different things. So it's important that we have a united front and that we're all talking about the same dates. We can all say that it's flexible. We can all say that we hope it's going to happen sooner, but we can also be realistic with when we're out talking to people in the community and they ask when it's going to happen. We can also tell them what we know now. So these are the dates that we know now. We can all, you know, say that we want it to happen sooner, but these are the dates we know now. That's all. And Debbie, to your point, that really stinks about the heat. You know, it really does. And if I could have made that library happen 2.5 years ago, I would have. You know, but so it is important that we're all on the same page. So that's the purpose of this timeline here. That's all. And I know that there was so much conversation around it. I just wanted to bring it back to the forefront so that we could talk it out again. If it, you know, we could break it down to months. Actually, you know, Mary, I know, not to throw you under the bus right now, but I know you've done a really good job with timelines in the past as far as, you know, you did a whole timeline, you know, leading up until referendum, I think it was one time, but just, you know, maybe breaking it down to, okay, you know, what needs to happen in this budget cycle, what needs to happen. And I'd be more than happy to put that together and just take the dates that, well, yeah, I can simplify what I had in the 10-year capital plan for new library expenses. But that other sheet had those, you know, budget years. So
yeah, what's nice about the timeline is it's mostly at this point for us, but what's nice having it all in one place is we see what the steps are and what the order of the steps are so that we can be thinking, oh, we have to ask for this budget year and, you know, that budget year. So yes, it's definitely good to know and, you know, always keep our eyes open and be ready in case anything does open up sooner. So if we're always ready and always on top of things, we're ready to pounce if we can, but if we can't, we just keep marching forward.
Well, you know, to Debbie's point, I think it would make sense, Christina, if we did it by budget year, like 21, 22 kind of thing. And then, you know, specifically make little notes, what we need to, if this happens, then here's what we need to start doing.
a decision tree. That's a
Right.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
A decision tree. If I'd taken a business course, I would know that.
I will put
Yeah.
together a decision tree.
I'm putting that in the minutes.
Yeah. And then I'll remember it. Okay, so if there's no other discussion on that, I also wanted to kind of go into history. With the last leading up to referendum, that last project, I got involved in 2015. And it was very early 2015. There's actually meeting minutes from the Board of Trustees where they were talking to me in 2014, but I was a little bit elusive, I think, with Betsy. So I got involved in 2015, early 2015, and we worked at I would say the first year was a little bit slow in that we looked at the whole, Debbie, you'll remember this, we looked at the whole town, and we looked at Gursky Homestead, Happy Land, all of these places in town, anything that was public property. And then, so that was sort of the first year. So we didn't really have our location set at that point. And then, so from 2015 to 2008, early 2018, which is when we had the referendum, we kind of worked at like a mock speed. But that 3-year period, we cruised through everything that needed to be done. So if they move up our date from when in the summer of 2022, if they move up our date, I can say with confidence, based on the last go round, that we're going to do just fine, because we will at that point, if they move up our date, we have their backing, we have their go ahead, and they will be basically saying, well, I would hope that they would basically be saying that they will support the budgets to make the project happen. And that's it. I just wanted to throw out the timeline of the last project so that everyone was aware.
Okay.
Did anyone have any questions or anything? So it would have been really great if the budget conversation had happened prior to this meeting, but unfortunately it's scheduled for next Tuesday. So I wanted to throw that date out there. Tuesday, February 23rd at 5:15 p.m. is the Board of Selectmen is discussing with, Yvonne's going to present the budget, and a few board members are going to attend. I'm sure it's going to be on YouTube, I would assume, right? And what I can do is I can send out, when I have that Zoom or the YouTube information, I can forward that in. And if anyone wants to do public comment, or if you have any questions and you want to reach out about what you might say in public comment, or you have an idea of what you'd like to say in public comment, feel free to reach out, or just give public comment. And that's it. So then we'll know more after the Board of Selectmen meeting with the Board of Trustees.
What time is it on the 23rd? 5 o'clock?
5:15. It's an odd time.
We're
It
not,
was actually
well, we're technically not the first ones on the agenda.
That's true. Is
But
it Park and Rec?
yeah, actually, they said land use was going first.
Land use? Land use, actually, Alice is usually fairly quick, I think.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah, Alice is usually pretty quick.
But,
Park and Rec can take a little bit of time.
but I do remember from last year, it's, you just have to be ready at 5:15. And last year, I think Alice was getting started and had some technical issues and they threw me in. So you just have to be ready at 5:15. It may not happen until 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6:15, but you have to be ready at 5:15.
So if you would like to join or to watch that call or do public comment or anything, that would be really fantastic.
Yvonne, what are you presenting? Are you presenting the overall budget and
Yeah,
separately?
so it's actually the request this year is that we don't go line by line over the budget, that they only want to hear what is different from past years. They only want to hear a couple of things. They really do not want to be walked through the entire budget. They don't want us to go through our mission statement and what we do and all kinds of statistics. They just want to know what's different from last year. That's the word I've been given.
Is the 30,000 part of that discussion?
The 30,000 is in there, and I think that, Betsy, there's a separate time for discussing capital budget, right? Later.
Yeah, generally, this is probably just the operating budget.
Yeah, but I'm talking about everything that I have, and that's going to be one of the things that I mentioned, and they would probably say, we're going to be talking about the capital budget later, but,
Later that night?
no, later in March, I believe it is. They're just putting together their budget calendar right now. I got the initial one the other day, but I had some questions on it. And when I asked, they said it's not finalized yet. So I don't have specific dates. For example,
How do
they didn't even put us on for the Board of Finance yet.
how do we advocate for that 30,000?
Every day of our lives, Frank, every day of our lives. We have,
So I think,
So
no,
an actionable item might be to send an email to the Board of Selectmen, I would assume, right?
absolutely. Board of Selectmen.
Do public comment. You could do public comment next Tuesday as well as during
Absolutely.
that discussion.
would they entertain a public comment on a capital expenditure, even though it's not going to be discussed that night?
Make
I
it,
think you get
we-
2 minutes
yeah.
for public comment, so.
yeah,
What, Betsy?
make it short and sweet, and they will listen. They may tell you we're not really discussing that, but they listen.
Okay,
So,
It's
can make
always
it-
good to say it.
I
Yeah,
can
they
make it
might say,
short.
they
I
might
don't know
say,
if
come
that's
back when we discuss the capital budget, and then you kind of got your word in anyway, then you come back when it's the capital budget.
Remember, people
Um,
need to hear things at least 3 times before,
Yeah.
before it's
True.
in, right?
Oddly enough, that same night at 7 o'clock at the high school, there's an in-person, like bring your masks and social distance, meeting to approve, kind of like a vote on Streetscape 4. So that starts at 7. So I didn't know if anybody during, if Steve or anybody was planning to be at that, but he can't be in two places.
isn't that a town meeting that they've had to
Yeah.
postpone? Yeah, so, I mean, it's a formal meeting.
Yeah. Is he planning, do you know if anybody knows if he's gonna be
Yeah.
at that one?
Yes, my
Okay.
guess is he will be.
Yeah, so I don't know, I guess it's gonna be short on the 23rd at 5:15 if he has to be somewhere else at 7.
If he's
Hey.
going to be someplace else at 7, it almost sounds as if they won't entertain many, if any, comments at all, if he's got to be at that streetscape meeting.
But they have to
I'm
have.
sure they always have public comment.
They
Yeah,
have
It's
to
worth a
support
try.
public
I mean,
comment.
that's, if you're looking for a way to advocate, that's probably your best way to advocate, other than sending a letter that only the 3 selectmen would see.
And there'll be so
Um,
few public comments, honestly, I'm sure they can entertain the
Sure.
few that will be there.
Yeah. So any other discussion on the timeline or that meeting? If not, we can move on to old business discussion on any of the below topics. I don't think there's anything new to discuss. I think we're really, kind of waiting on that budget talk. And then confirm the date for the next meeting, Thursday, March 18th at 5 p.m. And if no one has anything else that they would like to discuss, we can close the meeting at 5:27. Anything else to discuss? If not, thank you very much. I appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a
Thank
good night.
you.